Hey guys, Chris here, aka Warchild V1, and I just came up with a good idea for a video that is really the don'ts of driving a manual transmission car. I catch myself doing one of these things all the time and figured, I'm trying to break myself of this habit. So it made me think of, I can think of like 4 or 5 things that some people may not even be aware of that you shouldn't do in a manual, or it may be one of your bad habits that you want to think about. One of those is when you come to a stop and you are completely stopped sitting at a red light for a while, it's really best not to be holding in that clutch pedal. If you're holding in the clutch pedal, here, let's go. If you're holding in the clutch pedal for a long time, then really it's getting excessive wear that's just unnecessary. Not the clutch, the throwout bearing. Basically, in layman's terms, anytime you press the clutch, there's a fork that pushes on a bearing. And this bearing presses into what's called a pressure plate, which releases the clutch. So anytime you're holding in the clutch pedal, it's pressing in this bearing and making one non-moving part press up against a spinning part, and that bearing can wear out early. It's happened to me before. In my 06 WRX, I actually wore out my throwout bearing and it exploded inside the bell housing of my transmission, and it cut a big groove into my input shaft. Even if you don't know what that stuff is, that's bad news. You don't want that. So basically, if you're at a stop, instead of sitting there and holding in the clutch, it really only takes, a second to put it in gear and go. It doesn't take long. So if you let off the clutch and just sit there, it's probably best for you in the long run, as long as, you don't want your throwout bearing to wear out quicker than it should, this and that. So there's my tip number 1, throwout bearing. When you come to a stop, put it in neutral, let off the clutch, let it relax. It's really meant for just being pressed to put it in gear. All right, thing number 2, which is one of the habits that I've had for quite some time, but I always try to break myself of it. I mean, I don't do it that bad. I know not to rest my hand. What it is this shift knob. You don't rest your hand on it. Don't use it as a a hand rester, basically. If you rest your hand on it, all right, more explanation time for you. There is, inside your transmission, say a 2-pronged fork that pushes up against a synchronizer that's spinning. So this fork is not spinning, synchronizer's spinning, and it presses up against it to push it into a gear. So you have one non-moving part meshing up against a moving part, and that's when you are pushing it into gears. Well, if you rest your hand on this, you could be pushing your non-moving part up against the moving part and just sit there and grind it away real slow. I mean, it would take a while to really cause a lot of damage. But even in owner's manuals, if you go read in a lot of owner's manuals, they actually tell you do not rest your hand on the shift knob because it could cause excessive wear on the shift fork. So look, hey, there's another thing that you may not know about that you should not be doing in your manual transmission car. Thing number 3. This may be a big given. It kind of is to me, and it probably most likely is to a lot of people. But if it's not, then you need to break yourself of this habit fast, which is resting your foot on the clutch pedal. Don't ever just rest your foot on the clutch pedal. You can touch it with your foot or something, but don't let your foot's weight sit on it or something, because that will eventually cause bad clutch wear because you're partially disengaging it, blah, blah, blah. That's just, don't rest your foot on the clutch pedal. That's why cars have that 4th little area for you to rest your foot on, so you don't rest your foot on the clutch. And the last thing I can think of just off the top of my head right now, that this is the thing that I do that I'm trying not to do, is probably really best that you don't do it, is don't have your car in too high of a gear and floor it. Like me, I'm cruising, I'm going 70 miles an hour, I'm in 6th gear. it causes a lot of strain, unnecessary strain on components. If you tell your engine, all right, let's go all out right now, and the transmission's telling it, no, I can't. So that puts a lot of extra strain on the clutch, on a lot of internals. You don't want to do that because the engine's trying to go and it just can't. So that's the fourth thing I could think of that's really bad. Let's see, what else? That's all I could think of off the top of my head. So I guess let's go over those again. When you're sitting at a red light, it's best to not have your car in first gear holding your clutch in the whole time. Just wait until the light turns green or until it's right about to, then press in your clutch, put it in gear. That's really your best bet, because that will wear out your throwout bearing a little early. It'll have premature wear. That's not a good thing. You're not gonna have a good time, okay? Thing number 2, I said, what was it? Right, thing number 2 was don't rest your hand on your shifter. It's a big no-no. It causes wear and tear on shift forks. It's not a good thing to do. You could have premature wear on shift forks and stuff inside the transmission that you really don't want to wear out, because you don't want to have to rebuild your transmission. Shit, I've never had to do that ever. So, you know, resting your hand on it, putting your weight on it is not a good thing. Now, I mean, say you're shifting and you keep your hand there. I do that a lot. Don't put your weight on it. That's all there is. Go read up on that if you don't believe me. It's not a good thing. You're not going to break it in a day or probably even a year or two, but just don't do it. Trust me, it's not a good thing for your car. Thing number 3 was don't rest your foot on the clutch pedal. It is not a footrest. It's not a good place to rest it, because you could be partially disengaging the clutch, and that's bad for the clutch if you're trying to drive. You know, makes sense, right? Right. And thing number 4 was, if you're cruising in 6th gear and you want to go faster, best bet is put it in 5th or put it in 4th. It's better for the internals than it is for you to, you know, stomp the gas pedal to speed up a little bit. It's really not good for it when you're telling your engine to go all out and it can't. You know, it's being held back by a gear ratio. So those are the 4 things I can think of that are, you know, big manual transmission don'ts. Don't do it. It's that easy. So I hope this video helps someone out. I was just thinking about this stuff this morning, and I wasn't thinking about all of it, but I was thinking about the whole cruising down the highway, hitting the gas too hard. I had a teacher back in car school teach me that, you know, that adds extra stress to all the components inside that transmission, everything, because the engine's trying to go, and the clutch and transmission and everything saying, no, I mean, here, we'll go this much faster. So I started thinking about that, because I do that a lot. And I started thinking about it, and I was thinking, I need to quit doing that. Like this car, for some reason, in 6th gear, you hit the gas a little bit, it will actually start going. But that's what made me think about, you're not supposed to do it. Look at that. A Mach 1. I love those. It used to say SVT on the side. It's probably a Cobra that just looks like a Mach 1. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it helps someone out. Please comment, like, and sub if you haven't. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.